Hey boys and girls, hope everybody's doing well and you have enjoyed your spring break. I am coming to you live from my backyard right now. I'm getting ready to read chapter 9 of Lemonade Wars. I'm going to double up on a couple chapters because they're extremely short, but I won't be doing that right this moment. Just wanted to go back and talk to you a little bit about what's already happened. We've got Jesse and Evan, our two main characters. They're brother and sister, and they are trying to have a battle, a war with each other to see who can make the most money from selling lemonade. Jesse has befriended a girl named Megan, who is going to be in her class next year. Jessie is also skipping a grade. She's going from 2nd to 4th grade, so she's missing out on 3rd grade. Darn, because it's a really great year. And she has made, I do believe, $203 or $204, and her brother Evan has made $103. Megan actually gave part of her money to Jesse, and we're going to find out a little bit more about what's going on. We know Evan's a little upset about Jesse skipping a grade. I'm not sure Jesse quite understands all that, though. So I'm going to go ahead with Chapter 9, Negotiation. Negotiation, a method of bargaining so that you can reach an agreement. Evan looked up from the marble track he was building when Jesse walked in the front door. She looked hot. She was sweaty. She looked happy, really, really happy, like she'd just gotten an A+, or like she just won a war. "What are you smiling for?" asked Evan, holding a marble at the top of the track. "No," he said. Jesse put her hands on her hips and stared at Evan. She looked like one of those goofy yellow smiley faces, all mouth, kind of what we would think of an emoji. "Well, quit looking at me, would ya? It's creepifying. You look like you're going to explode or something." Evan dropped the marble into the funnel. It raced through the track, picking up speed around the curves. It passed the flywheel, sending the flag spinning, and then fell into a final drop. When it reached the end of the track, it went sailing through the air like a beautiful silver bird, and fell short. The marble landed on the ground instead of in the bullseye cup. Evan muttered under his breath. My page just turned from the wind. Evan muttered under his breath and adjusted the position of the cup. "Raise the end of the track," said Jesse. "You'll get more loft." Evan looked at her angrily. The marble had fallen into the cup at least 10 times since he'd done it. Why did it have to fall short the one time she was watching? "Don't tell me what to do," he said. Why was she smiling like that? "I didn't tell you what to do," she said. "I made a suggestion. Take it or leave it." And she turned and walked up the stairs. "Grumpmeister Fink," she tossed over her shoulder. Evan threw a marble at her, disappearing back, but missed by a mile. Well, he hadn't been aiming anyway. He just wanted that feeling of throwing something. He'd been feeling the need to throw something these past 4 days. Grumpmaster Fink. That was the name of the character he made up when he was 6 and Jesse was 5. That was back when Mom and Dad were fighting a lot and Evan and Jesse had to get out of the house. They'd scramble up the climbing tree. Evan had his branch, Jesse had hers, and waited out. Sometimes they had to wait a long time. And once, Jesse was thirsty and impatient and cranky. Evan had said, "Be quiet, and I'll tell you a story about Grumpmaster Fink." Grumpmaster Fink was a man who was cranky and mean and made everybody miserable, but deep down he wanted people to love him. It's just that every time he tried to do something nice, it turned out all wrong. Evan had made up a lot of stories about Mr. Fink in that tree, but after Dad left, there weren't any more stories to tell. No one in the whole world besides Jesse and Evan knew about Grumpmaster Fink, and Evan hadn't thought about him in years. "Hey," he said sharply. He heard Jesse stop at the top of the stairs, but she didn't come down. "Do you want to call this whole thing off?" he asked. "What?" she shouted. This lemonade war," he said. "Call it off?" "Yeah," he said. "Just say nobody wins and nobody loses." Jessie walked down the stairs and stood with her arms crossed. Evan looked at her. He missed her. He had spent the whole day, the third to the last day before school started, by himself. It stunk. It totally stunk. If Jesse had been around and they hadn't been fighting with each other, they could have played air hockey or made pretzels or built a marble track with twice as many gizmos that launched the marble into the bullseye cup every time. Jessie was very precise. She was good at getting the marble into the cup. What did you say? He asked. Jessie looked puzzled. I don't know, she said, frowning. You see, Megan kind of, well, she... Evan felt his face go hot. Megan minority. Every time he thought of her, his throat got all squeezed and scratchy. It was like an allergic reaction he had if he had accidentally ate shrimp. You told Megan about everything? He asked, feeling itchy all over. No, well, what everything? Asked Jessie. Evan thought she looked like a fish caught in a net. You did. And suddenly Evan knew exactly why Jessie had been smiling when she walked in the door, and why she didn't want to call off the war. She had done it. Again. She figured out some way to show the world just how stupid he was. Like the time he'd come home with 100% on his weekly spelling quiz, the only time he'd ever gotten every word right, to find that Jessie had won a statewide poetry contest. He'd thrown his paper into the trash without even telling his mom. What was the point? Evan didn't know how, but somehow Jessie found a way to earn more than $103. She was going to beat him, and Megan knew all about it. And she would tell everyone else. All the girls would know. Paul would know, and Ryan, and Adam, and Jack. Scott Spencer would know. Can you believe it? He lost to his little sister, the one who's going to be in our class. What a loser. You know what? He said, pushing past her. Forget it. Just forget I said anything. The war is on. On. Prepare to die. So there's quite a few problems. I want you to think about the problems that Evan is experiencing and think of some of the problems that Jessie might be experiencing. I'll let you decide which character that you want to discuss the problems with. But I do want you to think of some of the things that are happening that both of them are having too. They both miss each other, don't they? They do. Your word today is gizmo, and I will read the story. I will read that back to you. If Jessie had been around and they hadn't been fighting with each other, they could have played air hockey or made pretzels or built a marble track with twice as many gizmos that launched the marble into the bullseye cup every time. Gizmos. Think about this also. How do you think you would feel if you were Jessie or Evan? Would you want to call the war off? Just a thought. All right, boys and girls, until chapter 10.